Welcome back. It's Saturday, 12:37 p.m. I'm recording this. Shout out to Albon, who decided to take a break from Williams Racing to make a video. But in all seriousness, shout out to Albon with the video. The man who escaped death 3 times. This was an old recommendation like a week or so back. And I was like, Chaz, let's do it. Let's do it. So, 3 times he escaped death somehow. So I'm really looking forward to what it's about. As always, hope you guys are doing good and amazing. No race this weekend, but we are back next week. Austria, where Leclerc won his last race. And on that note, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Anything regarding that F1, I haven't really seen anything in the last few days to really talk about. Yeah, that's it. Don't forget to like and sub, and let's start, right? Let's just go and just start. I'm rocking a do-rag today. Kind of keep my hair looking a tad bit scuffy. And yeah, let's get it.
It all and then losing even more, only to make a historic comeback, just to have it all snatched away yet again. Alex Zanardi may be a racing driver and an Olympic gold medalist, but 55 years on, he's proven to be something even more impressive.
That's hard.
A survivor. So let's dig into the insane highs and lows of Alex Zanardi's racing career to see how somebody, despite not having the most championship wins or podium finishes, is still perhaps the greatest racing driver of all time. Alessandro Alex Zanardi wasn't your typical Italian boy. He was born in Bologna in northern Italy, and from a very young age, he proved to be a persistent son of a gun. When he was just 13, he dismantled the family garbage bin and welded the wheels to some old pipes in the garage to make a go-kart. And with that dinky little garbage cart, he forged his love for racing. It wasn't long before he was in a proper kart and racing competitively. But the Zanardi family wasn't like the other snotty rich kids on the grid. Their team mechanic was Dino Zanardi, Alex's dad, and managing the team was Anna, his mom. It was a scrappy family affair, one that was very expensive for a middle-class family like theirs. But Alex's parents saw his talent and, more importantly, his drive, and they made ends meet for their son. Yeah. And over the next 8 years, Alex proved his mettle in that kart and worked his way up the ranks. But when it finally came to making that jump into the big leagues, the Zanardi family just didn't have the cash. Enter Max Puppies, Alex's best friend. Max and Alex grew up together and were basically brothers. And when Max saw that Alex's career was being held back by finances, he brought it up with his own father, Cesare. You see, Cesare owned a printing business, and while they weren't rich by any means, they were doing pretty well for themselves.
That's solid.
Well enough that Cesare saw Alex's predicament and decided that talent like his just couldn't go to waste. So the Puppies and Zanardi families pooled their savings together and came up with just enough to get Alex a drive in Formula 3.
That's hard. You know what? I like that because his best friend saw, helped out with him. The parents sacrificed, dad was mechanic, mom was the, team principal, owner, stuff like that. And, like I said, and me, stuff like that. The hard work and dedication. And now here's a Formula 3. I already know it's going to be good. We got to keep going. Let's go. Let's keep pushing.
Now, you may have heard of Formula 1. $100 million plus cars, the latest and greatest in speed, and the fastest drivers on the planet. But what you may not know is that many of the drivers that you know and love found their start in Formula 3. It's the racing testbed, the cutthroat training ground for many aspiring world champions. And for Alex, it was a long way from the wheelie bin go-karts that he started with. And in his debut year, he kinda sucked. He wasn't the worst, but his best finish in the entire season was 5th place. But there's one thing about Alex Zanardi that you'll soon learn. He always finds a way. The very next season, he put his head down and got faster and faster, qualifying for pole position twice. And by the end of the year, he had 3 podium finishes.
Hey, that's solid.
Every new season was a new opportunity to prove himself. And by 1991, he was a force to be reckoned with on the Formula 3 grid, with multiple wins that landed him 2nd place in the season championship. And while 2nd place might not seem like a huge accomplishment, his speed in that F3 car was catching the attention of a few teams teams in Formula One. And in that same year, the Jordan F1 team decided to bring on Alex part-time to replace Roberto Moreno. He raced 3 Grand Prix that year, with his best finish being 9th place. And while he certainly wasn't the prodigal son, he clearly had the chops to keep up with world-class drivers like Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, and Ayrton Senna. When 1992 rolled around, he had hoped to get a drive with one of the teams he was moonlighting with, but sadly, nobody inked a deal with him. Minardi did bring him on as a backup driver, and when Christian Fittipaldi was injured, Zanardi raced in 3 races in his place, but none of them were particularly great finishes for Alex. But the next year was going to be Alex knew it. He had been testing in the offseason with Benetton, but in the end, the call came from Lotus for him to take the helm of the Lotus 107. Alex Zanardi was now a full-fledged F1 driver, and was trying to show the world that he belonged at the top. But if you remember,
I will say though, to be honest, if if we was on F1 right, I mean, obviously some of our goals would try to be racing for like in the top teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, stuff like that. Whoop, whoop. Honestly, man, I would just try to just get on to like any team, like even if freaking Williams called, even if Williams called, man, I'd be like, listen, I'll happily take it. Just to be in F1, obviously, it's gonna be a lot of like potential hardships you're gonna have to deal with because it's Williams or it's AlphaTauri, stuff like that. No offense, but you're not gonna have the greatest car every week, and but just doing what you can. You see what George Russell did, getting a move to Mercedes after Valtteri left. So it's possible, man. It's possible. It is indeed possible. Keep working. Shout out to all my inspiring F1 drivers, man.
Lotus had a certain reputation for taking their cars to
you need to stop the car.
And then taking a step over that edge and falling into a long history of utter failure. The Lotus 107 had a tremendously advanced active suspension system, and it was one of Alex's main focuses to tune and refine that suspension system into something world-beating. But Alex himself went on to say in his later years that the team's focus on that suspension system was to the detriment of the rest of the car, because Alex only managed to get points in one race, the Brazilian Grand Prix. But we can't just blame the car, and to some extent, not even Alex's driving skill, because not long after Brazil, Alex was out riding his bicycle, one of his favorite activities, when an old man in a car didn't see him and ran right into him. The impact, of course, knocked Alex to the ground, and the old man ran over his foot, breaking it. This would be awful for anyone but a Formula One driver. Yeah, you kind of need your feet. But if you thought Alex was going to retire to let that foot heal, you thought wrong. As far as he was concerned, he still had his right foot, and that was more than enough. So not long after his accident, he raced in the German Grand Prix. It wasn't a great race for him, with him eventually losing control and not finishing the race. But nevertheless, he was relentless. Alex stuck to his guns and refused to let any adversity get in the way of his dreams. As his foot healed, he got more and more comfortable in the car, and even placed 7th at Monaco. But towards the end of the season, at the Belgian Grand Prix, Alex was in practice and finding his groove at the legendary Spa circuit. And as he came up on the iconic Eau Rouge bend, the Lotus began to act kind of strange. It was a failure in the active suspension system, and like with far too many Lotuses, it was a failure at the absolute worst time. Alex lost control at high speed and spun violently into the gravel trap, but with the momentum he was carrying, it went through the gravel trap and into the wall. When the medics got him, he was completely unconscious. He had suffered a huge blow to the head, and when they got him to the hospital, they concluded that he had had a severe concussion, one that would put him out of a race car for months, stuck in a bed with constant dizziness, pain, and nausea for the foreseeable future. The only plus was that the doctors told him he was over 3 centimeters taller now. That's over an inch, because the G-forces from the crash were so intense that it pulled his spine apart and made it tall. Not only did Alex miss the rest of the 93 season, he even missed the beginning of the 94 season. And when he finally returned for the Spanish Grand Prix, it was too little too late. He didn't have nearly enough seat time in the new Lotus 109 to be competitive, and his 9th place finish in Spain ended up the best of the season. Add to that the fact
holy shit.
fact that the writing was on the wall for Lotus. They really hadn't been competitive since the late 70s. And with the company now in financial trouble, both Alex and Lotus were looking like they were at the end of their Formula One career.
That's unfortunate.
After the 94 season, Team Lotus officially shut down, and Alex went his separate way. And to make matters worse, Alex's father, Dino, had been fighting a long battle with cancer. And in that same year, he passed away at just 54 years old, never having seen his son at the top of that podium. It's safe to say at this point, Alex was lost. He didn't know what
that's
he
a lot of
wanted to
like
do,
hardships
but
to
he
deal with,
wanted
man.
to race. So he joined a few European sports car series here and there, doing well in some and not so well in others. But with 1995's race season quickly approaching, he wanted to find a place where he could settle down. And
He was
really
low-key
hone
crashing
his
a lot,
skills.
though.
And much to everyone's surprise, this Italian racing driver found just what he needed in a place quite a long way from home, America. By the way, you know what else is awesome and not from the US of A? Our sponsor, D-Brand.
Ooh, look at that car.
Show final will begin in 10 minutes.
You know what, man? You're shooing for the finals.
Maybe, but look who else is here. Got him in fight here.
Dang. You got about 100 grand in the interior of that car.
Got him in fight here. Got him in fight here.
And then
Winning isn't going to be easy, but I got to do it.
Dennis, my dear, I don't have much time left.
Don't say that, Grandmama. I'll have the money for your surgery. I'm so close.
Sonny, life is a lot like a Chrysler engine. It starts off with so much vigor, but it doesn't take long for it to all fall apart.
Grandmama, no. I can save you. I promise.
Okay, sure, but can you at least turn on the PS5 on your way out? I need to beat those damn licenses in Gran Turismo.
I'm gonna win that prize money, Granny. I have a secret weapon.
D-Brand.
Wait, can't you just sell your car and pay off your hospital bills? And...
Judging's about to start.
I'm watching a movie. This shit fine.
Truly fascinating, a Germano-centric take on a Japanese classic. And this interior, my God.
But what's this? How could you have such a nice car and such an ugly, mismatched phone?
Not the
This second car
Android.
looks nice. Not exactly period correct, but it's what's on the
That's a
inside.
nice car. A little throwback,
What is that?
vintage.
It's a D-brand skin. 100% dead cow. Beautifully crafted.
It's
Perfect? I know. D-brand skins are precision cut. Perfect fit for all my devices. And they come in all sorts of colors and materials. Leather to match your seats, carbon fiber to match your dash, and a whole bunch of colors to match your car, your house, your dog, whatever. Just go to dbrand.com and you can get the perfect skin or case or screen protector or PS5 dark mode.
This is it. This is the winner.
Take the money.
Thank you, D-brand. This is for you, Grandmama.
Oh no. Run, my guy, run! Ah, dang, that's unfortunate.
Now, when you think racing in America, you're probably thinking NASCAR. But Alex
That was
Zanardi had
pretty
a
funny.
unique ability to not only turn left, but to also turn right. So he looked to another American race series that was a little bit more
NASCAR.
style. The Championship Auto Racing Teams, or CART. Now, you probably haven't heard of CART before, but you probably know IndyCar. CART
Yeah.
was in fact the predecessor to IndyCar, formed in the late 70s as a open-wheel racing league for America. The cars were a lot like Formula One cars, single-seat, mid-engined, open-wheel race cars, generally with turbocharged engines. But they were also larger, heavier than F1 cars at the time. But it was familiar enough that Alex thought he was a shoo-in for getting a drive in any racing team in the series. He was a Formula One driver after all. But surprisingly, no team gave him the light of day. It seemed that the entirety of
Jeez.
CART didn't think he had what it took to win. And considering his tumultuous time in F1 over the last few years, maybe
That's
they're
a
right.
crazy
But
old
Alex Zanardi
crash.
didn't take no for an answer. And he just kept reaching out to anyone he thought could get him into a car. Hell, even just a test drive. And that's when Rick Gorn, a director
Rick
at a
Gorn.
CART chassis supplier, got in touch with Chip Ganassi Racing to convince them that this feisty Italian was worth their time. Reluctantly, they agreed to give Alex a test drive of
Hold up. Why does Genasi sound really familiar? I'm trying to think. Is it Ganassi Racing? Oh, it sounds familiar though.
their car at the Homestead Miami Speedway. And Alex knew this was the moment that he needed to make his mark. It wasn't just a contract at stake, this was basically his entire racing career. Details on that test drive are slim, but it was clear that Alex brought his A game to Florida that day. Because on October 23rd, 1995, Chip Ganassi Racing signed Alex Zanardi as an official kart racing driver for the upcoming 96
Let's go,
season.
baby.
Alex had something to prove in kart.
Gotta go
In just his
crazy.
second race, he qualified for pole position and took a 4th place finish. In his 6th race at Michigan, he set the fastest lap of the day. And it was in his 9th ever kart race in Portland that he finally took home the gold. In his rookie season, Alex had 6 pole position qualifiers and 3 first place finishes, putting him right behind Jimmy Vasser and Michael Andretti in the final points. Coming out of seemingly nowhere, Alex absolutely dominated his rookie season at kart. He had set the fastest lap in nearly all of the later races of the season.
Bro's going
and all
crazy
of those
in
teams
kart.
that had doubted him were totally dumbstruck. But for Alex, it wasn't much of a surprise. It was a culmination of all those years of work that he put in. Racing in F3 and F1, beating adversity after adversity. In his mind, success was inevitable. Alex was named Rookie of the Year, but he
Got
knew
to.
that he was capable of so much more. He knew that he could win the whole damn thing. And so Alex and Chip Ganassi Racing continued on together, honing their Reynard chassis and Honda engines, and extracting as much speed as they could before the 1997 season. And by the opening race in Miami, they were a force to be reckoned with. Alex took pole in the opening race, but fell to 7th place over the course of the race. Not ideal, but he kept his head up. The second race in Australia was fantastic for Alex. Not only qualifying for pole, but also setting the fastest lap of the day.
Bro's
Alex
going
just
crazy.
couldn't stay at the front, and by the end of the race, he finished 4th. But we know Alex. He's not giving up yet. And so in the third race, the Toyota Grand Prix at Long Beach, he kept his head down and stayed focused. He lost pole position to Gil de Ferran, but during the race, he was absolutely on fire. But then again, so was Jimmy Vasser, who found himself in the lead in much of the race. So with 12 laps
wait,
left,
Jimmy Vasser,
Alex
relax.
decided it was do or die, and he needed to
Let
make
my
a
boy
heroic
eat.
pass to get into first. And once he snuck by, no matter how much Vasser tried, he couldn't get past Alex. And when the checkered flag waved, it was Alex Zanardi with the gold. Just 3 races in,
Alex
Alex
Zanardi.
already had a fantastic win under his belt. He was ecstatic, so ecstatic that on his victory lap, instead of just stopping on the track and waving to the crowd, he pinned the throttle and started doing donuts to celebrate his win. The crowd absolutely ate it up and went wild. And believe it or not, that was the first celebratory donut ever done in professional racing. Not everyone approved of it, especially not the race officials, but Alex Zanardi soon became known as the Donut King because it was his signature way of celebrating winning races. And win races he did. Alex went on to take first in
So that's
4
why
more
you have
races,
to do
twice
that
in
in, like,
Ohio,
NASCAR and
once
stuff
in
like that.
Michigan, and another at Road America. And that meant that with 195 points for the season, Alex Zanardi was the 1997 kart drivers
That's
champion.
hard. That's
But the
my
reign
boy.
of the Donut King was just getting started. Alex and the Ganassi team improved the car further for the 98 season. Both the Reynard 98i chassis and Honda HRK powertrains were well-oiled machines at this point, literally. And Alex was only getting better behind the wheel. But the 98 season didn't start out the best for them. The opening race in Miami wasn't bad, with Alex placing 3rd behind Greg Moore and Michael Andretti. But the second race at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan was an absolute disaster. The race started strong with Alex qualifying 4th, but a mid-race crash saw to it that Zanardi would be far out of the points. And with such a fantastic season last year, it really seemed like everything was going wrong right
my
out the
God.
gate this time around. But you may know what's coming next. This was Alex Zanardi, the comeback kid. And the
Right.
third race of
The
the season
Donut
was
King.
Long Beach, a circuit he absolutely dominated last year. The birthplace of the Donut King. And oh boy, did he deliver.
went
It was
crazy.
a tough race, with rivals like Brian Herta and Bobby Rahal holding pace the whole time. But in the end, it was Zanardi meeting the checkered flag first. His first win of the season, but most certainly not his last. Now in his groove, Alex took control of the grid. He had 7 wins in the season, 4 of which were back-to-back. And by the end of the year, he was on the podium for 15 out of the 19 races. 285 points. That's 116 more than the nearest second place driver.
Even with the bad
An
start.
extraordinary triumph, not only making him the back-to-back kart champ, but giving Reynard their 4th constructor win and Honda its 3rd engine manufacturer's title. And Honda was so grateful to Alex that they worked with him to create a bespoke version of their supercar, the NSX. It was called the NSX Zanardi Edition, and it was the most hardcore NSX to ever make it to the United States. Essentially a customized NSX Type S, there were only 51 of them made. All of them bore the Zanardi name. And what a
okay, no offense, but you make 51. Why? What's with the extra one? Just like I would think like just 50, just because just make 50. But what's with the extra one? 51, like. Because it's just an extra couple mil you can make instead of having 50. You can make an extra couple mil with selling 51.
Prove himself. Validation of the sweat and blood he put in to make it.
My boy went through it all, man.
But it turns out there was far more sweat and blood to be paid in Alex's lifetime.
Whoa.
Many people would have expected Alex to continue on and kart for the hat trick, but it turns out Sir Frank Williams of the Williams F1 team had been in contact with Alex since 1997 for a potential comeback to Formula One. And in 1998, right in the middle of Alex's kart domination, Alex and Williams signed a 3-year contract, meaning Alex was back in the big league. And when he got there, he was fast. His experience in kart definitely gave him an edge compared to his first time around in Formula One. But sadly, he had one major issue. The Williams car sucked. It's not that it wasn't quick, it was the absolutely atrocious reliability. Throughout the season, Alex had engine issues, differential failures, electronic bugs, transmission wonkiness. At the last race of the season in Japan, Alex fought his way from 16th up to 9th when his car's pit lane speed limiter randomly activated while he was on course and stalled the engine out. It seemed no matter how fast he was, the Williams car always found a way to screw him in the end. Alex, frustrated with Williams, terminated that 3-year contract he signed, and he decided to just take some time off. He didn't race for the entire next year, but in 2001, he decided to go back to where he found all his success. Kart. He ended up signing with the Mo Nunn team, a new team founded by Maurice Nunn, a former member of Chip Ganassi. But this new team just really couldn't find their stride. Alex's best finish in the first half of the season was 4th place, with the vast majority of his finishes being out of the top 10. But little did Alex know, a bad season was about to turn into a lifetime nightmare. On September 15th, 2001, the American Memorial Race at the Lausitzring in Germany was nearly underway. There was an uneasiness in the air as the September 11th attacks were still fresh on the minds of the drivers and the fans. The name American Memorial was even a last-minute change from the German 500 in recognition of those that had lost their lives just 4 days earlier. Qualifying had been canceled due to rain, and that meant that Alex had to start at the back of the grid. He knew that he needed to push the car and
did I see Michael Jordan? Hold up. Whoa.
that Alex had to start.
Michael Jordan. That's hard. Michael Jordan Jr.
At the back of the grid. He knew that he needed to push
Shout out to the GOAT
himself in order to get into the points in this race. And that's exactly what he did. Alex fought his way through this race, passing rival after rival, and at lap 121, Alex had found his way into 1st place. But it wasn't smooth sailing from there. Tony Kanaan was mere 10ths behind Alex. At lap 142, Alex needed to make a pit stop. It was quick.
The hell was that, water?
Sped back onto the track to keep hold of his lead. But when he was exiting the pits, he was in such a rush that he pinned the throttle and put the car into a slide. The car was on cold tires, and it seemed that Alex just couldn't pull the car back straight. He slid through the grass and ended up on track, pointing sideways. And on track was Patrick Carpentier, traveling nearly 200 miles per hour right in the path of Alex. A last-minute maneuver saw Carpentier narrowly avoid Alex, but right behind him was Alex Tagliani. Tagliani didn't have enough time to react, and at 200 miles per hour, he crashed directly into Alex's car, right behind Alex's front wheels. The impact completely severed the front half of Alex's car, and along with the car, Alex's legs. This crash is one of the most horrific things to possibly ever happen in racing. Within minutes, emergency personnel were on the scene, but by that time, Alex had lost 3/4 of his entire blood volume. But he was alive, and so they quickly got him into an airlift and heading to a Berlin hospital. The medics said his heart stopped 7 times on that flight. When they got to the hospital, they immediately put him into surgery, further amputating his legs to close off the wounds and stop the bleeding. And somehow, Alex Zanardi survived. He awoke 8 days later in excruciating pain. He looked down and was confused, later saying, "I didn't know what exactly had happened, but I had a vague idea, and I was happier than a pig in shit to be alive." But of course he was alive. Alex Zanardi, throughout his life, made it known that he was a survivor. And although this was going to be his hardest battle yet, he was gonna make a comeback. Alex had a painstaking rehabilitation ahead of him. He had to totally relearn life. Without legs, he couldn't do most of the basic things he was accustomed to doing before. And perhaps most painful to him, he couldn't race. At least that's what the world told him, but Alex didn't believe a word of it. He knew he could beat this, and he knew he would be back in a race car soon enough. It took 2 years, but in 2003, he returned to where it all happened, the Lausitz Ring. And in a custom-made race car with hand controls, he raced his forgotten laps. 13 laps to commemorate the laps he couldn't finish in 2001. And an absolutely overflowing audience cheered him on as he did it. And these weren't just some parade laps either. Oh no. Alex's fastest lap in that hand-controlled car would have qualified him 5th for that year's race. 2 years after that level of trauma, and Alex was as fast as ever. After that, he knew he needed to get back into a car, and so
how he still managed to have just the love and passion to get back on the track racing. Holy crap, man! Like how Sway? How? That's amazing. That's off to say. That's freaking amazing how he managed to do that. That is absolutely amazing. That's crazy. Oh my god.
he joined the European Touring Car Championship with BMW, and in his first race at Monza, he placed 7th with prosthetic legs. And over the next few years, Alex continued to race and continued his dream. In 2005, he had his first win after coming back in Germany.
And bro is still winning and racing.
Donuts. And until 2009, Alex continued to race touring cars with some success here and there, but no winning seasons. If you remember though, one of Alex's favorite pastimes before the accident was bicycling. So he decided to give hand cycling a try. And Alex loved it. So much so that he wanted to race hand cycles competitively. And so he did. And he ended up winning the Venice Marathon. And then in 2010, the Rome Marathon. And the very next year, he took the gold in the New York City Marathon.
Oh, bro, going crazy.
He was chasing on 4 wheels was perhaps better found on 2. And in 2012, Alex decided to enter the London Paralympic Games, where he competed in the hand cycling series. And in the H4 road time trials, Alex finished 27 seconds ahead of the nearest competitor, earning him an Olympic gold medal. And 2 days later, he won the individual H4 race, earning him a second Olympic gold medal. And the very next day, he won the silver for Italy in the mixed team relay. Alex Zanardi, at the age of 45, having been to hell and back, now
multiple
had
times
3 Olympic medals. But in usual fashion, he wanted more. And 4 years later, in the 2016 Rio Games, Alex took another gold in road time trials, along with another gold and silver in mixed team and road racing.
Bro's a winner.
Kart championship trophies, Alex was now a 6-time Olympic medalist. And as much as he loved racing cars, it really seemed like Alex's true calling now was hand cycling. 2 years later, in 2018, he even broke the handicapped Ironman world record. Alex had always taken what life had doled out on him and made the absolute best of it. And his hand cycling career was absolute proof of that. But as much as I want to say that this story ends here, in a freeze frame of Alex holding up a gold medal, I can't.
He's still racing?
2020, Alex was getting ready to race in the Obiettivo Tricolore, a 2,000-kilometer Italian road race for Paralympic athletes, one that Alex had a hand in creating. It was designed to bring Italian Paralympic athletes together, especially at a time when the COVID pandemic had isolated much of the world. The race began, and Alex and the other cyclists began to make their way through the beautiful Italian countryside. But on a highway near Pienza, Alex was making his way down a steep hill. A truck was coming in the oncoming lane, and while there are
Bruh, oh my god, man. Please don't tell me, man. I'm not trying to. Oh my god, bro.
mixed reports, some say that the truck began to cross over the center line. Alex, either by chance or in an attempt to avoid the truck, lost control and collided head-on with it. The crash was awful, with Alex sustaining major head injuries. Nearby competitors saw Alex lying there and notified emergency services, and he was airlifted to a hospital in Siena, where he was treated for his injuries. But sadly, this was just the beginning for Alex. Over the next few months, he underwent surgery after surgery, with much of his face needing reconstruction from the injuries. It wasn't until December, 5 months later, that Alex could see and hear again, and after another surgery in January did he begin to regain some level of speech. He remained in hospital for nearly another year after that, only finally being permitted to return home in December 2021. Today, Alex continues to recover, undergoing regular physiological, neurological, and speech training exercises, in hopes that one day he'll be able to be back to where he was before that awful crash. And you know what? I have no doubt that he will. Alex Zanardi, the one who raced a garbage bin go-kart, who drove Formula 3000 after getting run over by a car, who nearly died on many an occasion, only to come back stronger than ever and prove time after time that there was no such thing as defeat, only opportunities to learn and improve,
did not give up,
and come back again for the gold. Alex, we know you'll win this battle too, and we'll all be waiting to see you do donuts when you do. Thanks for watching. If you
okay, that was amazing. Shout out to Albon again, man. That was absolutely amazing. Alex Zanardi 3 times, man. That crash, he freaking lost his legs. That was. I don't even really. I don't know what to say about that. Like, I don't know what to say about that. That was scary. Absolutely scary. On that note, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Don't forget to like and sub as well. Stay safe. Stay amazing. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.